All worlds begin with Demon Slayer. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151, Mount Tay Falls. Bai Yu, who was leaning against a tree trunk and detoxifying, suddenly heard a cat cry, and then discovered through an extremely rough visual system that there was indeed something squatting in front of him. Bai Yu didn't know that this was the cat that Yashiro used to deliver blood, and thought it was a wild cat living in the mountains, so he didn't pay much attention to it. Seeing that Bai Yu ignored him, the cat took the initiative to rub against Bai Yu. Bai Yu saw that the cat was very familiar, so he stroked the cat without disgust. It was not until Bai Yu's vision gradually recovered that Bai Yu saw the talisman paper on the cat and the small backpack on the cat's back. Bai Yu realized that this cat was the courier used by Yashiro to deliver demon blood. He actually stroked it for so long. With a secret joy in his heart, Bai Yu took out the blood collected from the lower six from his arms. Bai Yu's blood collection tool is the same as Tanjiro's, and it is made by Yashiro himself. After putting the blood collection tool into the small backpack behind the cat, Bai Yu stroked the cat again, and then told it, "You must work seriously, and make sure to deliver the things to Tomioka." The kitten, who had finished loading the express, turned and left after seeing Bai Yu stroked him. Not long after the cat walked out, it turned into a puff of red smoke and dissipated in Bai Yu's sight. Bai Yu was not too surprised. Coming to this world of Demon Slayer, Bai Yu was no longer surprised by strange things. After the cat left, Bai Yu continued to lean against the tree trunk alone to recover his body. After Zenitsu Agatsuma, Nezuko and the little boy separated from Inosuke, they continued to look for the exit of the villa at the strong request of Zenitsu Agatsuma, because all the spaces in the villa were dislocated under the influence of Hibika's blood demon art, so even the little boy who had been living here could not tell the direction. Fortunately, Zenitsu Agatsuma had good luck along the way, and did not encounter any danger. But when Tanjiro and Hibiki were fighting fiercely, the space where Zenitsu Agatsuma was located was affected, so Zenitsu Agatsuma and others fell out of the villa from the window on the second floor of the villa in various fierce tumbling. The first one to be thrown out was Zenitsu Agatsuma, who fell heavily to the ground and almost vomited. But before Zenitsu Agatsuma could recover, Nezuko, who was thrown out second, sat on Zenitsu Agatsuma's back with her buttocks, knocking Zenitsu Agatsuma's eyes out. The last one to be thrown out was the little boy, who fell in a parabola in the direction of Nezuko, and was caught by Nezuko. Nezuko, who caught the little boy, moved her buttocks and stood up, while Zenitsu Agatsuma rolled her eyes and her limbs twitched. "Nezuko, your buttocks almost took my life." Zenitsu Agatsuma complained to Nezuko with difficulty with the last breath in his lungs. After saying that, Zenitsu Agatsuma began to cough violently. Nezuko stood aside and looked at Zenitsu Agatsuma quietly, without any apology on her face, and she had no intention of going forward to comfort Zenitsu Agatsuma. The little boy couldn't bear it anymore, so he squatted beside Zenitsu Agatsuma, then shook Zenitsu Agatsuma, and asked with concern, "Big brother, are you okay?" Zenitsu Agatsuma raised his hand with difficulty, then pressed the little boy's shoulder, and then said to the little boy half dead, "Don't shake it. Let me take it slowly." Chapter 152, Inosuke's Rage. After recovering from the shock, Zenitsu Agatsuma supported himself and stood up. If Nezuko's butt wasn't plump and firm, it's estimated that Zenitsu Agatsuma's waist would have been broken by Nezuko's butt. Although he did have a close contact with Nezuko's butt just now, Zenitsu Agatsuma's experience was not very good. Zenitsu Agatsuma felt nothing except pain in his waist and back. Looking around, Zenitsu Agatsuma realized that he was out, and a look of joy appeared on his face. "Great. I'm finally out. If I stay in there any longer, I'll really vomit." Zenitsu Agatsuma shouted happily. The little boy who came out of the villa was not happy about this, but a hint of depression could be seen on his face. After all, he came into the villa to find his brother, but now he didn't find his brother, and his sister was separated from him. Zenitsu Agatsuma seemed to see the little boy's worry, so he patted his shoulder and comforted him. "Don't worry, Tanjiro is here. Your sister will be fine." Since we are out, let's go meet up with Senior Bai Yu first. Zenitsu Agatsuma immediately changed the subject and said again. At this moment, a man wearing a pig head mask was thrown out of the window on the second floor of the villa. After Inosuke was thrown out, he flipped in the air for a few weeks and landed cleanly. Hahaha, I found you again. Inosuke was excited again, after seeing Zenitsu Agatsuma and Nezuko. Pig rush. This time, Zenitsu Agatsuma did not faint like last time, but after seeing Inosuke, Zenitsu Agatsuma was still nervous and scared. Immediately, Zenitsu Agatsuma pushed Nezuko out, and yelled at her, Nezuko, run. Go find Senior Bai Yu. Nezuko knew that Inosuke would hurt her, so she ran out of the villa without any hesitation. Inosuke saw that Zenitsu Agatsuma had let the ghost go, and immediately wanted to chase him, but Zenitsu Agatsuma hugged his thigh. I won't let you go. When Nezuko finds Senior Bai Yu, you, a pighead, will know how powerful Senior Bai Yu is. Zenitsu Agatsuma said, and then he laughed with some complacency. Inosuke directly hammered Zenitsu Agatsuma's back with the handle of the knife. Zenitsu Agatsuma, who was a little proud, almost vomited blood. Let go. What is this? Do you know what you just let go? It's a ghost that eats people. Inosuke yelled at Zenitsu Agatsuma angrily. I won't let go. Nezuko is different from other ghosts. She won't eat people. Agatsuma Zenitsu gritted his teeth and clung to Inosuke tightly. Faced with Inosuke's stubbornness, the little boy couldn't stand it anymore, so he rushed up and hugged Inosuke's other leg, saying, pig-headed brother. Nezuko is not a bad person. Please don't hurt her. I'm Inosuke, not pig-headed brother. Inosuke was furious at the little boy's address. Although he was angry, Inosuke didn't hit the little boy directly, like he did to Agatsuma Zenitsu. However, Inosuke still pulled the little boy off his thigh and threw him aside. Just when Inosuke was about to pull Agatsuma Zenitsu off, Agatsuma Zenitsu suddenly opened his mouth and bit Inosuke's thigh. Chapter 153 Angry Tanjiro. Inosuke had not expected that Agatsuma Zenitsu would use such a dirty move. He was completely different from the way he was in the villa just now. Inosuke hammered Agatsuma Zenitsu's back with the handle of the knife in pain, and then yelled at him, let go. Let go. Agatsuma Zenitsu endured Inosuke's hammering, and had no intention of letting go easily. However, Inosuke's strong muscles were not vegetarian. Not long after, Agatsuma Zenitsu could not withstand Inosuke's hammering again and again, and his whole body was weak, and loosened his mouth, and then he fell to the ground. At this time, Tanjiro, who rescued the brother and sister Minako, happened to see the scene of Inosuke knocking Agatsuma Zenitsu to the ground. Tanjiro's expression, which originally had a trace of victory and joy, froze in an instant. Since you let the demon run away, you will die instead of that demon. Inosuke knew that there was no hope of catching up with Nezuko, so he wanted to kill Agatsuma Zenitsu. Then, Inosuke was ready to stab Zenitsu Agatsuma's heart. Asshole. Tanjiro cursed, then rushed towards Inosuke, and finally hit Inosuke's abdomen hard. Only a slight sound of bones breaking was heard, and Inosuke's ribs broke under Tanjiro's heavy blow. Then, Inosuke was knocked out by Tanjiro's fist, and then Inosuke rolled on the ground several times before stopping. Inosuke wanted to kill Zenitsu Agatsuma, and he didn't distinguish between friend and foe in the villa before. These 2 points completely angered the kind-hearted Tanjiro, so Tanjiro didn't hold back at all in the previous punch. On the other side, the little boy saw his sister Minako and brother who came out with Tanjiro, and immediately rushed towards them with joy, completely ignoring the situation on Zenitsu Agatsuma's side. Zenitsu Agatsuma, who was lying on the ground, heard the sound of Inosuke's ribs breaking with his extremely sensitive ears, and he screamed in shock, damn, the bone is broken. At the same time, Zenitsu Agatsuma couldn't help but touch his stomach with some fear. Aren't you a member of the Demon Slayer Corps? Don't you even know the team rules of the Demon Slayer Corps? Members cannot kill each other, even if the two sides have a blood feud. And you beat him unilaterally, is it fun? Tanjiro clenched his fists and questioned Inosuke with great seriousness and anger. Inosuke, who was lying on the ground, was hit hard in the stomach by Tanjiro. In addition to a rib broken by Tanjiro, the wound on his stomach, pierced by the broken blade. Under the pressure, the blood that had stopped flowing out again. However, Inosuke did not make any wails because of the pain, but laughed excitedly because of the pain. Hahaha, sorry, there is such a rule. Then let's fight with bare hands. Inosuke's belligerent nature was ignited by Tanjiro's powerful punch. Upon hearing this, Tanjiro was also impressed by Inosuke's brain circuit and suddenly felt that he didn't know how to explain it to Inosuke. You didn't understand what I meant at all. I wanted you to know that team members can't fight. Tanjiro wanted to continue explaining to Inosuke. However, Inosuke didn't intend to listen to Tanjiro's explanation at all and directly turned over and rushed towards Tanjiro. Chapter 154, Fierce Fight. Even with bare hands, it won't work. Are you listening to me? Tanjiro dodged Inosuke's attack while trying to enlighten Inosuke. As soon as Tanjiro finished speaking, Inosuke took the opportunity to get close to Tanjiro, suddenly grabbed Tanjiro's shoulders with both hands, then jumped up with the force, and finally rode on Tanjiro's back. Tanjiro suddenly turned around and tried to throw Inosuke off. As a result, Inosuke, who was unstable and about to be thrown off by Tanjiro, suddenly hooked Tanjiro's neck with both feet, and then avoided being thrown off by Tanjiro. Tanjiro saw that he couldn't throw Inosuke off, so he wanted to pull Inosuke off. However, Inosuke, who clamped Tanjiro's head with his legs, immediately used Tanjiro's head as a fulcrum and turned his body. Driven by inertia, Tanjiro was forced to rotate with it. Inosuke wanted to use the power of rotation to throw Tanjiro out. Tanjiro grabbed Inosuke's pants and tried to throw him out. After the inertia reached its maximum peak, Inosuke loosened his legs. Fortunately, Tanjiro grabbed Inosuke's pants, which prevented him from being thrown out by the strong inertia. However, before he could completely stabilize his body, Inosuke's pants were torn by Tanjiro. Therefore, Tanjiro and Inosuke were still affected by inertia. After a stumble, Tanjiro barely stabilized his body, and Inosuke directly used the force of inertia to land, propped up the ground with one hand, and then turned around and kicked Tanjiro, who was staggering. Tanjiro used his strong waist to lean back, and Inosuke's foot did not kick Tanjiro, but just passed in front of Tanjiro. Agatsuma Zenitsu, who had recovered, sat on the ground and looked at the two people fighting in amazement. That pig head is so flexible. His ribs were broken by Tanjiro, but he can still do such a move. Faced with Inosuke's performance, Agatsuma Zenitsu was shocked. Inosuke's attack missed, and his hands that were supporting the ground suddenly bent and exerted force, and his whole body was immediately launched into the air. Inosuke adjusted his body shape in the air, and after landing, he temporarily distanced himself from Tanjiro. Tanjiro was also readjusting his body balance through his waist, so Tanjiro had no chance to attack Inosuke. After distanced himself from Tanjiro, Inosuke launched a second round of attack on Tanjiro again. Inosuke rushed towards Tanjiro again, and after getting close to Tanjiro, Inosuke rolled on the spot and then slid to try to knock Tanjiro to the ground. Tanjiro immediately jumped back to create a short distance. When Inosuke saw that the sliding tackle did not hit Tanjiro, he instantly supported himself on the ground with his left hand, and then used his left hand as a fulcrum to kick Tanjiro's thigh sideways. Tanjiro was kicked and slid back for a distance. After stabilizing his body, Tanjiro turned around and kicked Inosuke back. Inosuke used his knees as a fulcrum, and then with the powerful strength of his waist, he leaned back, and Inosuke's upper body became parallel to the ground. Inosuke's backward angle was much more exaggerated than Tanjiro's just now, which also indirectly showed that Inosuke's body flexibility was stronger than Tanjiro's. Inosuke, who dodged Tanjiro's attack, stood up again with the help of the strength of his waist, and then Inosuke and Tanjiro came face to face. Chapter 155, Boys Duel, Girls Can't Interrupt. On the other side, Nezuko, who escaped with the help of Agatsuma Zenitsu, quickly ran out of the villa. Because Bai Yu was outside the villa, Nezuko quickly found Bai Yu through the smell on Bai Yu. Bai Yu was the first to find Nezuko running out of the villa. Seeing that only Nezuko ran out, Bai Yu suddenly felt very strange. So, Bai Yu got up and greeted her. When Nezuko came to Bai Yu, she directly took Bai Yu's hand and led him into the villa. Bai Yu didn't ask much, but went with Nezuko to see what was going on. Even if Bai Yu asked, Nezuko couldn't answer. Because after becoming a ghost, Nezuko didn't seem to speak again. Bai Yu didn't know why. After all, most of the ghosts Bai Yu met could speak. Soon, Nezuko took Bai Yu to where Agatsuma Zenitsu was. Before getting close, Bai Yu saw Tanjiro fighting with Inosuke. Seeing the two fighting, Bai Yu didn't mean to intervene. On the contrary, Nezuko wanted to help because she saw her brother fighting with Inosuke. Fortunately, Bai Yu grabbed Nezuko and said to her, "Nezuko, girls should not interfere in the fight between boys." Nezuko seemed to understand Bai Yu's words and immediately became quiet. Agatsuma Zenitsu soon found Bai Yu, who came back with Nezuko. In an instant, Agatsuma Zenitsu ran towards Bai Yu like a wronged child. "Bai Yu Senior, you are finally here. Go and teach that pighead a lesson with Tanjiro. I was beaten so badly by him." Agatsuma Zenitsu hugged Bai Yu's thigh and then cried. Seeing the blood on the corner of Agatsuma Zenitsu's mouth, Bai Yu knew that Inosuke must have hit hard, but Bai Yu still had no intention of taking action, because this was the bond between Tanjiro and Inosuke, so Bai Yu absolutely could not intervene. Having Tanjiro is enough. If I take action, it will be 2 against 1. That will damage my reputation. Bai Yu found a reason to reject Agatsuma Zenitsu's request for action. Hearing this, Agatsuma Zenitsu no longer insisted, but let go of Bai Yu, and then pounced on Nezuko again pitifully, crying to Nezuko aggrievedly, "Nezuko, in order to protect you from getting away, I was beaten so badly by that pighead. Are you moved by my heroic behavior?" Nezuko seemed to think that Agatsuma Zenitsu needed care, so she stroked Agatsuma Zenitsu's head. Agatsuma Zenitsu suddenly felt elated, and then turned into a cat, rubbing against Nezuko's hand. "It's so comfortable. Nezuko's hands are so thin/smooth. Agatsuma Zenitsu sighed in his heart. Bai Yu naturally did not stop Zenitsu Agatsuma from getting close to Nezuko. After all, she was the matchmaker. If she stopped Zenitsu Agatsuma from getting close to Nezuko, it would be inconsistent. When Tanjiro and Inosuke were face to face, because of Bai Yu's arrival, Tanjiro turned around with some joy and called Bai Yu, "Bai Yu Senior." As a result, Inosuke took this opportunity and punched Tanjiro in the face. Tanjiro turned around under the huge force of the punch. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156. Don't embarrass your master. Being distracted during a duel is a big taboo. Inosuke reminded Tanjiro when he saw that he was distracted. At this time, Bai Yu said to Tanjiro, "Tanjiro, don't embarrass your master." Hearing this, Tanjiro immediately became serious and took the initiative to attack Inosuke. However, Inosuke's flexibility is much better than Tanjiro, so Tanjiro's attacks can always be easily avoided by Inosuke. Inosuke can also seize the opportunity to counter-attack Tanjiro. Judging from the performance of the two, Inosuke has the upper hand with his more flexible and flexible body, and although Tanjiro's body is not as flexible as Inosuke, Tanjiro's reaction is not slower than Inosuke. Therefore, Tanjiro can still keep up with Inosuke's rhythm and minimize Inosuke's advantage. After several rounds of contact, Tanjiro quickly discovered the characteristics of Inosuke's attack. This guy's attacks are almost all centered around the lower 3 roots. This way of attacking is just like fighting a wild beast. Tanjiro muttered to himself. After knowing Inosuke's attack method, Tanjiro quickly came up with a countermeasure. In that case, let's give him a taste of his own medicine. So, Tanjiro suddenly slid down and lowered his body. After dodging Inosuke's attack, he suddenly pushed his right hand against the ground, using it as a fulcrum for exerting force, and then turned around and kicked Inosuke's head with a sweeping kick. Because Inosuke's attacks were all very low, his body was also pressed very low by him. If Tanjiro wanted to attack Inosuke, he had to lower his attack. If it was someone else, Tanjiro's kick would definitely hit the opponent. Because the height of this attack was just right, even if an ordinary person wanted to jump up to avoid it, he would still kick the opponent's knee or calf. But Inosuke did successfully dodge Tanjiro's kick. He was very flexible and did a split, and then his upper body was lying on the ground. Tanjiro's kick just swept across Inosuke's back. Inosuke, who had dodged Tanjiro's attack, pushed the ground with both hands, and then stood upside down. Finally, with the bending of his waist, one of Inosuke's feet formed a big C shape like a scorpion's tail. Tanjiro's back of the head was kicked hard by Inosuke's back foot. Such a difficult move can only be done by someone like Inosuke who has an unusually flexible body. If ordinary people want to imitate it, their spine will definitely be irreversibly fractured. If the spine is fractured, they will be completely paralyzed and become useless. Tanjiro was kicked hard in the back of the head by Inosuke, and blood immediately gushed out of his nose. Tanjiro didn't expect Inosuke to be able to counterattack with such a difficult move. This was indeed a miscalculation. After hitting Tanjiro, Inosuke did a few somersaults and distanced himself from Tanjiro. Then he boasted to Tanjiro proudly, "I'm awesome. I'm awesome. Hahaha, look, I can do this." Inosuke, who was very proud, immediately showed Tanjiro a more difficult move. Inosuke suddenly bent down, and as his waist bent, his body suddenly bent into a very amazing arc. Chapter 157, A Woman. As Inosuke's body bent backwards little by little, his head slowly poked out from between his legs. After performing this amazing move, Inosuke laughed triumphantly. He could laugh with this move, which obviously did not take much effort on his part. After seeing Inosuke's performance, Bai Yu couldn't help but admire him. With this flexibility, even if he doesn't become a ghost hunter anymore, he can still make a living by performing. Senior Bai Yu, that pig head can't be a monster. Can a human do this? He can't be the child of a wild boar and a human. Can a wild boar give birth to a child? If so, what will the child of Nezuko and I look like? Agatsuma's Zenitsu couldn't help but be shocked by Inosuke's imagination. Bai Yu gave Agatsuma's Zenitsu a fried chestnut and then said out of the blue, "What are you thinking about? Can you be a little more knowledgeable?" Minako and her two siblings were also shocked by Inosuke's amazing flexibility, and their jaws dropped. After seeing Inosuke making this amazing move, Tanjiro was amazed and kindly reminded Inosuke, "Don't mess around. If you are injured, doing this kind of action will make your injury worsen. I wish for it." Inosuke immediately turned over and stood up. Inosuke, who stood up again, rushed towards Tanjiro again and said, "Nothing can beat the pleasure of defeating you at this time." Inosuke, who rushed up, attacked Tanjiro with fists and feet again. "Then you have to think about the future." Tanjiro dodged Inosuke's attack. In order to end this meaningless fight, Tanjiro suddenly had an idea and thought of a way. Then he seized the control of Inosuke's attack and suddenly clasped Inosuke's shoulders with both hands. After clasping Inosuke's shoulders, Tanjiro was dissatisfied and said angrily, "Calm down." As he said that, Tanjiro hit Inosuke's forehead heavily with his forehead. This headbutt attack is Tanjiro's unique skill. When he first encountered the ghost in the temple, Tanjiro used this move on the ghost head. With an extremely heavy muffled sound, Agatsuma Zenitsu immediately covered his forehead with fear and screamed, "Ah, this sound. Will my skull be fractured?" Bai Yu did not expect Tanjiro to use such a stupid method to end the battle. If Tanjiro's forehead is not strong enough, this method is indeed a very stupid method, because the consequence of this is likely to hurt the enemy 800 and hurt yourself 1000. If your own head is not strong enough, it is likely that you will be killed by hitting your head. Inosuke's forehead was hit by Tanjiro, and he immediately lowered his head and stepped back several steps with a somewhat unstable body. Perhaps because of the reason for lowering his head, the pig head mask on Inosuke's face fell off. After seeing Inosuke's true face, Tanjiro's expression on his face was a little surprised. Bai Yu, who was standing by, couldn't help but smile after seeing Inosuke's true face. Agatsuma Zenitsu was so frightened after seeing Inosuke's appearance that he stammered, "Hey, this face is a woman, a woman, a woman." Chapter 158 Inosuke is tired. "What do you mean, kid? Do you have any opinion about my face?" Inosuke took his hand covering his forehead away and then suddenly questioned Zenitsu Agatsuma. Inosuke's forehead was bleeding from being hit by Tanjiro's head, and the blood flowed from his forehead to his face, giving people a horrifying feeling. Zenitsu Agatsuma replied with a look of disgust, "This is disgusting, a muscle body with a woman's face. Then what do you mean by staring at my face? Inosuke saw that Zenitsu Agatsuma had a tone of disgust, but his eyes were looking at him very honestly, and he couldn't help but feel unhappy. I didn't. Zenitsu Agatsuma immediately denied, and then shifted his gaze elsewhere. Zenitsu Agatsuma was very surprised by this, which is actually understandable. Because even Bai Yu had to admit that Inosuke's appearance was really beautiful. His skin was very white, tender, and smooth, and he had long hair, so Inosuke's face had nothing to do with men in any way. If you only look at his face, without looking at his muscular body, and listening to his rough voice, Inosuke's appearance is definitely the type that men will like. Agatsuma Zenitsu, who particularly likes girls, naturally instinctively focused his attention on Inosuke's face. I have no opinion on your face. It's small, white, and smooth. I think it's very beautiful. Tanjiro praised Inosuke's appearance at this time. Believe it or not, I will kill you. Stop talking nonsense to me. Come on. I will definitely defeat you this time. Inosuke was obviously very dissatisfied with Tanjiro's praise of his beauty and still shouted that he wanted to duel with Tanjiro. I won't do it again. Tanjiro replied. Give me another headbutt. My head must be harder than yours. Inosuke argued. No. Come again. Quick. Please calm down. You are still injured. Hey. Broad forehead. In that case, I will tell you my name. Remember it. My name is Inosuke Hashibira. Then how do you write your name? Writing? Inosuke was also stumped by Tanjiro's question, so he explained. I can't write. My name is written on the loincloth. When Inosuke said this, his voice suddenly stopped, and the whole person seemed to be petrified, standing still in the same place. Why did this guy stop? Agatsuma Zenitsu was surprised to see this. Hey, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Tanjiro immediately asked about Inosuke's situation. Inosuke did not pay attention to Tanjiro, but rolled his eyes, and the whole person fell backwards, foaming at the mouth, and collapsed to the ground. Agatsuma Zenitsu saw Inosuke foaming at the mouth, and falling to the ground, and couldn't help but screamed. He fell down. Is he dead? Seeing this, Bai Yu also walked to Inosuke and briefly checked on Inosuke's condition. Feeling Inosuke's steady breathing, Bai Yu said to everyone, it's okay, his breathing is still stable. He should have a concussion from the collision. After all, I hit him headbutt with all my strength. Tanjiro was also guessing about Inosuke's condition at this time. Tanjiro was still very confident about his forehead. Chapter 159 Future Plans. At this time, Minako walked in front of Tanjiro, and then asked Tanjiro with concern, Big brother, is your head okay? My head is fine. Tanjiro replied without any impact. Hearing this, Minako was shocked and said, Big brother is so awesome. Can I touch your head? Tanjiro immediately put his head close to let Minako touch it, and Agatsuma Zenitsu looked at Tanjiro like a freak and was secretly shocked in his heart. It's terrible. Tanjiro's head didn't bleed. How hard is this head? If I get hit like this, I'm afraid I will die directly. Thinking of this, Agatsuma Zenitsu couldn't help but imagine the scene of himself being beaten by Tanjiro's head after marrying Nezuko in the future. Thinking of this, Agatsuma Zenitsu shuddered violently and then touched his forehead again. After Inosuke fainted, the atmosphere eased a lot. Tanjiro turned his gaze to Bai Yu and asked Bai Yu, Senior Bai Yu, are you okay? Did you deal with the lower six? Hearing this, Bai Yu nodded and replied lightly, solved. What's the situation in the villa? Is everything handled? Bai Yu immediately asked Tanjiro about the situation in the villa. Tanjiro also nodded, and then said, everything has been handled. There is a demon named Xianke. Its blood demon art is very powerful. It can make the space twist, and it was the lower 6 of the 12 demon moons before, but for some reason, its identity was stripped away. However, I still defeated it with my wisdom. Tanjiro briefly explained to Bai Yu what he encountered in the villa. Bai Yu listened very carefully, then nodded, patted Tanjiro on the shoulder, and finally said, you did a great job. No matter what situation you encounter, you must always keep a cool head and full confidence. Bai Yu understood that Tanjiro's strength and talent were not much worse than his own. The reason why Bai Yu was so powerful was that he had the special ability of ghost transformation. If he didn't have this special ability of ghost transformation, in his normal state, Bai Yu would only be slightly stronger than Tanjiro. As time goes by, Tanjiro will sooner or later reach the height that Bai Yu has reached. Afterwards, Tanjiro simply treated the external injuries on the body of the fainted Inosuke, and then let Inosuke lie on a relatively flat ground to rest. While Tanjiro was taking care of the injured and unconscious Inosuke, Bai Yu came to the three siblings of Minako, and then asked the oldest brother, "What are your plans for the future? In addition to your parents, do you have other relatives?" Hearing this, the eldest brother of the two siblings shook his head at Bai Yu, and then said, "No. But we will live on bravely, and I will definitely raise my younger brothers and sisters. I plan to move to the village near the foot of the mountain, and start a new life there. I just hope that in the future, I will not encounter those monsters that broke into the house tonight." Bai Yu nodded, and didn't say much. Maybe it's because, if you continue to live in this villa, you will always think of bad memories. So moving away from here, and starting a new life is the best choice. In this way, the deceased parents of the three siblings can also leave with peace of mind. Chapter 160, dealing with the aftermath. However, Bai Yu did not dare to promise the three siblings that they would not encounter ghosts again in the future. After all, ghosts are such in existence that Bai Yu cannot completely erase them now. And even if Bai Yu has the ability to erase them, doing so will inevitably have some impact on the world. Whether this impact is good or bad, Bai Yu does not know. As the saying goes, a single move can affect the whole body, and the existence of this saying is naturally reasonable. Afterwards, Bai Yu, Tanji, Agatsuma, Zenitsu and Nezuko, three people and a ghost, led the three siblings back to the villa to pack up the items they were going to take away, while the unconscious Inosuke was left outside by Bai Yu. Among these items are things used by their parents when they were alive, some valuable items and money that can be pawned, and finally the clothes of the three siblings. Throughout the whole process, Tanjiro's expression was extremely heavy, as if it evoked bad memories in Tanjiro's heart. When he left home with Nezuko, who had become a ghost that day, Tanjiro was also like the three siblings, sorting out the items of his family members when they were alive. Coming to the room where the parents of the three siblings died again, Bai Yu and others soon saw the bodies of the parents of the three siblings. The expressions of the bodies when they died were full of despair and fear, which was extremely horrifying. The most frightening thing was the extremely horrible hole in the stomach of the body, and the internal organs inside were eaten clean by the ghost. When Bai Yu saw this situation, his brows could not help but frown slightly. Tanjiro took a breath of cold air and then covered Minako's eyes, not wanting her to see this horrible scene. Agatsuma Zenitsu looked extremely scared, and the whole person was tense. He grabbed the corner of Bai Yu's clothes tightly and hid behind Bai Yu. Although Nezuko was a ghost, she did not react at all when facing these corpses that should have been food in her mouth. As the eldest brother among the three siblings, facing the tragic death of his family, even with fear in his heart, he rushed to the remains of his parents, then knelt heavily on the ground with a plop, and finally cried loudly. When the eldest cried, the second and third siblings couldn't help crying. Tanjiro kept comforting Minako, who was a girl. After the three siblings vented their emotions, Tanjiro said to Bai Yu, "Senior Bai Yu, let's help Minako bury their dead parents." Bai Yu nodded, and then said, "Not only their parents, but also other people who died in the villa." In addition to the parents of the three siblings, none of the servants in the villa were spared. In this disaster caused by the ghost, only the three siblings survived. Perhaps this is a blessing in disguise. Afterwards, Bai Yu and Tanjiro worked in pairs, and Agatsuma, Zenitsu and Nezuko worked in pairs. The three people and the ghost moved all the people who were killed in the villa outside the villa one by one. The whole process took about an hour. After that, Tanjiro chose a suitable place for burial and started digging with a shovel found in the backyard of the villa without saying a word. There were only 2 shovels, so the work of digging the pit was done by Tanjiro and Zenitsu Agatsuma. However, Zenitsu Agatsuma complained that he was exhausted after working for a short time. Bai Yu knew that Zenitsu Agatsuma wanted to be lazy, but Bai Yu still took over Zenitsu Agatsuma's shift and started digging with Tanjiro. If we rely on Zenitsu Agatsuma to do a good job, it will probably take until dawn to finish. Chapter 161 Inosuke's Path. Zenitsu Agatsuma, who had just sat down next to Inosuke to rest, hadn't even warmed up yet. Inosuke suddenly woke up, jumped up, looked at Zenitsu Agatsuma, and shouted loudly, "Duel! I want to duel with you." Damn. Again. Zenitsu Agatsuma stood up immediately, turned around and ran away. Inosuke immediately chased after Zenitsu Agatsuma, shouting, "Don't run. Duel with me quickly. Who wants to duel with a violent person like you?" Zenitsu Agatsuma said indignantly. Then, Zenitsu Agatsuma suddenly shrank behind Nezuko. When Inosuke saw Bai Yu and others digging a pit, he stopped immediately and asked everyone in confusion, "What are you doing?" Bai Yu and Tanjiro stopped what they were doing, and Tanjiro immediately explained to Inosuke, "We are burying the dead. Inosuke, come and help." Hearing this, Inosuke did not mean to help, but refused Tanjiro. "What's the point of burying the corpses of living things? I won't do it. I don't want to help." "Don't do that. Hurry up and continue to duel with me." Inosuke immediately asked Tanjiro to put down the things at hand and duel with him. This guy is a fool. He doesn't even know what the meaning is. Agatsuma Zenitsu said in his heart, and at the same time, he looked at Inosuke, as if he was looking at a fool. The dead are the greatest. Agatsuma Zenitsu still understands this, even if he is usually cowardly and timid, but Agatsuma Zenitsu still understands the truth. Bai Yu looked at Inosuke quietly, and didn't say much to him. "I see, you can't help, because you are injured. It's okay, since you are injured, then take a good rest. Such hard work can be done by me, Bai Yu Sr. and Zenitsu." Tanjiro did not have any bad emotions because of Inosuke's refusal, but helped Inosuke find a reason not to help. Only a very kind-hearted person like Tanjiro can do this. If it was someone else, they probably wouldn't pay too much attention to Inosuke, a weirdo with a big nerve. Bai Yu is an example of this. Because Bai Yu is normal enough, when it comes to getting along with Inosuke, Bai Yu naturally can't do the same as Tanjiro, and take care of Inosuke in everything. Tanjiro's words immediately hit Inosuke. The reason for hitting Inosuke is because Tanjiro said that he is a waste who can't do anything because of a little pain. Inosuke, who had a strong sense of self-esteem and competitiveness, immediately roared, "What? How dare you look down on me? It's just burying people. I will definitely bury more than anyone else, no matter if it's 100 or 200. At this time, Bai Yu threw the shovel in his hand in front of Inosuke, and then said, "In this case, then you can compete with Tanjiro. Let's see who buries more people faster." Agatsuma Zenitsu, who was very cunning, immediately realized Bai Yu's true intention. Bai Yu wanted Inosuke to take his place and make Inosuke a free laborer. However, Agatsuma Zenitsu did not expose Bai Yu's intention, but secretly sighed that Bai Yu's routine was amazing. Chapter 162 The bond between them. Tanjiro, who had no ulterior motives and was extremely kind, did not notice Bai Yu's intention. Instead, he was worried about Inosuke's injury because of Bai Yu's words. "Senior Bai Yu, this is not good. Inosuke is still injured. This kind of hard work may aggravate his injury." Tanjiro then reminded Bai Yu. Hearing this, Bai Yu patted Tanjiro on the shoulder, then smiled at him and said, "Don't worry, it won't affect Inosuke's injury. Didn't you see that he is full of fighting spirit and wants to compete with you?" After saying that, Bai Yu turned his eyes to Inosuke again, and then motioned Tanjiro to look. At this time, Inosuke saw Bai Yu throwing the shovel over and immediately began to move his tibia, and at the same time, laughed at Tanjiro with great excitement. "Hahaha, I must be the winner of this competition." Tanjiro saw that Inosuke looked like he had to win, and he knew that he could not shake his determination, so he could only be forced to compete with Inosuke helplessly. Inosuke, who was full of energy, dug the pit very quickly, but the soil dug out was thrown around by Inosuke, completely disregarding the feelings of others. In order to avoid being affected by the soil thrown around by Inosuke, Bai Yu immediately took Zenitsu Agatsuma, Nezuko and the three siblings to hide in a distant place where the soil could not reach. In this way, Tanjiro was extremely miserable. He had to dig a pit while avoiding the soil that Inosuke might throw at any time. With the help of Inosuke, all the dead were buried properly when the sky gradually brightened. Because it was going to be dawn, Nezuko pulled Bai Yu's sleeve and made a sleeping posture to Bai Yu. After Bai Yu saw Nezuko's gesture, he quickly understood what Nezuko meant. After that, Bai Yu looked up at the sky and indeed found that it was almost morning, so he asked Tanjiro to bring the mist spruce wooden box over and let Nezuko enter the wooden box. Nagatsuma's Zenitsu said goodbye to Nezuko reluctantly. "Nezuko, we'll see you tomorrow night. You must not miss me too much." As soon as he finished speaking, Bai Yu hit Agatsuma Zenitsu on the head with a fried chestnut and then said suddenly, "You are a little too emotional. It's like a life and death separation. Hahaha, I buried more than you. I won." Inosuke said proudly in front of Tanjiro. Tanjiro didn't care too much, but sincerely thanked Inosuke for helping him despite his pain. "Thank you, Inosuke." Inosuke didn't care about Tanjiro's gratitude at all, but said to Tanjiro, "I will definitely train my head until it is harder than yours, and then we will compete to see whose head is harder. Before that, I will stay by your side until I completely defeat you." Hearing this, Tanjiro's mouth twitched immediately. If this really happens, it is estimated that one of them must be killed. Tanjiro didn't want to die so early, at least before Nezuko turned back into a human. Tanjiro must not die easily. Tanjiro smiled and said 2 words to Inosuke, "Come on." After that, everyone except Inosuke prayed for a moment in front of the deceased's grave. During this process, Inosuke had already started to hit his head against the tree trunk for head strengthening training. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163, Bai Yu's Mission. After Bai Yu and the others finished praying, a crow from the Demon Slayer Corps suddenly flew in the sky. The crow circled in the air for a while, and then flew to the eldest brother of the 3 siblings who had rare blood, and said to him, "Stretch out your hands." Immediately, the eldest brother with rare blood stretched out his hands. After that, the crow handed the sachet in its claws to him, and then said, "This is a demon exorcising sachet. You have rare blood, so you must carry the sachet with you." Finally, the crow landed on Tanjiro's shoulder. Tanjiro's nose is very sensitive, so he immediately smelled the fragrance in the sachet as the fragrance of wisteria flowers. So Tanjiro said, "The fragrance of wisteria flowers." Wisteria flowers? The boy was puzzled. At this time, Bai Yu took over and said, "The ghost is very afraid of wisteria flowers. If you don't want to encounter those man-eating monsters again, it's best to carry it with you. If conditions permit, you can also plant some wisteria flowers in the place where you live in the future. In this way, you can be much safer." "I know." Faced with Bai Yu's kind reminder, the boy remembered it firmly in his heart. Immediately, the crow flew into the sky again, and then said to everyone, "Go down the mountain. Go down the mountain. Follow me." Hearing this, Bai Yu and his people didn't mean to stay here any longer, so they prepared to get up and leave, and Tanjiro also nimbly carried the mist spruce wooden box back on his back. And Inosuke, who was still concentrating on hitting the tree trunk with his head, saw that Bai Yu and his people were about to leave, and immediately chased after them, then pointed at Tanjiro and said, "We haven't decided the winner yet. You can't run away. I'm not calling you. I have a name, Tanjiro Kamado." Tanjiro immediately replied to Inosuke, "Tanjiro Kamado, I'm going to defeat you." Inosuke immediately took a fighting stance and said to Tanjiro again, "Not Tanjiro. My name is Tanjiro." Tanjiro immediately corrected very seriously, "No matter, you are Tanjiro." Inosuke was too lazy to correct so much. "No." Tanjiro retorted, "It's you." Inosuke insisted on his principles. While the two were arguing, Bai Yu directly hit them with a fried chestnut each, and the 2 of them immediately covered their backs of their heads in pain. Bai Yu was very smart and did not hit Tanjiro's forehead, but the back of his head. Because Tanjiro's hard part is not the whole head, but only the forehead, so Bai Yu's fried chestnuts can still hurt Tanjiro. "Be quiet," Bai Yu said lightly. Tanjiro knew that Bai Yu didn't like the voice that annoyed him, so he shut up obediently. Inosuke, who was unaware of the situation, suddenly jumped up and then pointed at Bai Yu and said angrily, "You actually sneak attacked me. Do you want to compete with me?" As he said that, Inosuke crushed directly to Bai Yu. Bai Yu immediately turned nimbly and dodged Inosuke's attack, and then instantly hit Inosuke's neck with a knife, and finally knocked Inosuke unconscious. Tanjiro saw that Bai Yu knocked Inosuke unconscious with just a move and a knife, and he couldn't help but marvel in his heart that Bai Yu's realm was indeed not at the same level as his. Zenitsu, now there is a task for you to complete. After knocking Inosuke unconscious, Bai Yu slapped Agatsuma Zenitsu on the shoulder and said, "I know, Senior Bai Yu." Agatsuma Zenitsu immediately showed a bitter look on his face. Agatsuma Zenitsu didn't even need to think about it and knew what the task was that Bai Yu was talking about. Chapter 164, Recuperation. Under the pressure of Bai Yu's majesty, Agatsuma Zenitsu reluctantly carried Inosuke on his back. Bai Yu saw Agatsuma Zenitsu with a miserable face, and then he said to comfort him, "Why do you look miserable? Inosuke has a beautiful face after all. Just think of it as carrying a beautiful woman." After that, Bai Yu took off Inosuke's wild boar head mask. Agatsuma Zenitsu couldn't help but look at Inosuke's beautiful face again, and his heart became even more strange. "Senior Bai Yu, you should put the pig head mask on him. The more I look at this face, the more I can't stand it." Even though Inosuke has a peerless beautiful face, Agatsuma Zenitsu really can't muster up the fighting spirit. Whenever he thinks of Inosuke's strong physique and rough voice, Agatsuma Zenitsu feels nauseous. Zenitsu Agatsuma felt that Inosuke was arranged by God to disgust him. This combination of beauty and the beast, even if Zenitsu Agatsuma likes beautiful women, he really can't like Inosuke, because Inosuke is a man, and he is also a violent maniac. Hearing this, Bai Yu saw that Zenitsu Agatsuma couldn't stand a beautiful man like Inosuke, so he put Inosuke's wild boar head cover back. After about 2 hours of running around, Bai Yu and others came to the village at the foot of the mountain. Then, Bai Yu and others found the girls home again, and then Bai Yu and Tanjiro explained the situation of the three siblings. After winning the consent of their family, the three siblings were temporarily placed in the girls' home. During this period, the girl was still very vigilant about Zenitsu Agatsuma. Fortunately, Zenitsu Agatsuma did not do anything out of line with the girl this time. Perhaps, this is because Zenitsu Agatsuma regarded Nezuko as the final candidate for his wife, so Zenitsu Agatsuma at this time will be more reserved than before. This was the last help Bai Yu could give to the three siblings. After settling the three siblings, as soon as they came out of the girl's house, the crow landed on Tanjiro's shoulder again, and then said to Tanjiro, "Recover. Recover. Follow me." Hearing this, Tanjiro was a little puzzled. Every time the crow appeared, it was basically to assign ghost hunting tasks. Now it was asking them to recover. Does the Demon Slayer Corps have a special place to rest and recover? After the crow finished speaking, it flew high into the sky again. After that, Bai Yu, Tanjiro, Zenitsu Agatsuma, Nezuko, and Inosuke followed the direction indicated by the crow to the place where they could recover. However, Bai Yu did not need to recover, because after all the battles, Bai Yu did not suffer any external injuries. The only serious poisoning had been completely eliminated by Bai Yu through the wood breathing method. Although Bai Yu does not need to recuperate, it is different for Tanjiro and others. The one who was injured the most should be Inosuke, followed by Tanjiro, and finally Zenitsu Agatsuma. Most of Zenitsu Agatsuma's injuries were caused by Inosuke's beating. As for Tanjiro's injuries, they were left from the last battle with the telekinesis in Asakusa, Tokyo. Although Tameo helped to deal with it before leaving, it was only a few days from Asakusa, Tokyo to Nanandang, and Tanjiro's injuries must not have healed. This time, Tanjiro's injuries must have worsened as he fought with a body that had not yet healed, so recuperation is still necessary. Chapter 165 Bai Yu's Warning. Following the guidance of the crow, Bai Yu and others soon left the Nanandang area. At about noon, Zenitsu Agatsuma, who was carrying Inosuke on his back, was so tired that he was gasping for air. He then complained to Bai Yu, "Senior Bai Yu, change people. This deaded pig is too fucking heavy." "Who is the dead pig?" Inosuke on Zenitsu Agatsuma's back suddenly woke up at this time and then grabbed Zenitsu Agatsuma's ears with both hands and twisted them hard. Zenitsu Agatsuma suddenly screamed loudly, "Let go. Let me go. Let's duel." Boy. Inosuke did not intend to let go and directly challenged Zenitsu Agatsuma. Seeing that Inosuke didn't let go, Zenitsu Agatsuma immediately reached for Inosuke's crotch with his backhand, then used a little force and threatened, "Let go, you pighead. Don't force me." Inosuke felt the pain in his crotch and knew that Zenitsu Agatsuma had caught him. He was a little angry, but he didn't dare to act rashly. Instead, he said to Zenitsu Agatsuma angrily, "You are a despicable guy. You only use such dirty tricks." At this time, Bai Yu, who was walking in the front, suddenly stopped, then turned and walked towards the two people, and finally came in front of Zenitsu Agatsuma and Inosuke. Immediately, Bai Yu suddenly stretched out his hands towards the two people. Bai Yu's left hand clasped Inosuke's neck, and his right hand grabbed the key point of Zenitsu Agatsuma's arm. Then, Bai Yu exerted force with both hands in a specific position, and Inosuke felt paralyzed all over his body, and the hands that pinched Zenitsu Agatsuma's ears seemed to be out of his control and loosened. The same was true for Zenitsu Agatsuma, except that it was not his entire body that was paralyzed, but only the arm that was holding Inosuke's vitals. As soon as his arm was numb, Zenitsu Agatsuma's entire hand lost its strength, and Inosuke's male happiness was protected by Bai Yu. After that, Bai Yu pulled Inosuke off Zenitsu Agatsuma's back. Because of the paralysis of his entire body, Inosuke could not control his body at all, and could only be lifted up by Bai Yu's neck like a puppy. Seeing that Bai Yu had resolved the stalemate so easily, Tanjiro couldn't help but sigh at the unfathomable nature of Bai Yu's technique. The reason why Bai Yu had such a magical hand was that when he was bored at the Tama family, he flipped through a medical book about the structure of human nerves. With a general understanding of nerves, Bai Yu was able to paralyze the nerves of Inosuke and Zenitsu Agatsuma by applying just the right amount of external force. After separating the two, Bai Yu released the two, and as soon as Inosuke was released, he rushed towards Bai Yu angrily. Bai Yu knew that Inosuke would do this. Before Inosuke could touch Bai Yu, the knife on Bai Yu's waist, along with the scabbard, was pressed against Inosuke's heart. "Be quiet. Now is not the time for a sparring match. If you still don't behave, next time this knife won't be in the scabbard," Bai Yu said to Inosuke suddenly. Inosuke froze in place. He knew that if Bai Yu hadn't held back, he would have died under Bai Yu's knife. Tanjiro saw that the atmosphere was a little tense, so he stood up and moved Bai Yu's knife against Inosuke's side, then smiled and said to smooth things over, "Senior Bai Yu, Inosuke doesn't know that you like quietness. Why are you so serious?" Chapter 166 Inosuke's competitiveness. The reason why Bai Yu treats Inosuke like this is not because Bai Yu hates Inosuke, but because Bai Yu doesn't like Inosuke being too noisy. In addition, Bai Yu naturally has to maintain his prestige, otherwise, with Inosuke's temper, he is likely to ride on his head at any time. Inosuke, Bai Yu Sr. has no other intentions, he just wants you to be quiet. Tanjiro immediately explained to Inosuke. If he didn't explain, Tanjiro was really afraid that Inosuke would misunderstand, that Bai Yu would really kill him. To duel, you need the consent of others. Zenitsu carried you so hard, and you pinched his ears as soon as he woke up. You can't make friends by doing this. Bai Yu immediately put his knife back to his waist. Inosuke was not a person who held grudges. He quickly put Bai Yu's behavior behind him and asked Bai Yu, "Partner? What is a partner?" Agatsuma Zenitsu hid behind Bai Yu and rubbed his ears that were pinched and hurt. After hearing Inosuke ask such a question that was irrelevant, he insisted that Inosuke was a fool. Tanjiro did not expect that Inosuke did not even know what a partner was, but Tanjiro kindly explained to Inosuke, "Partners are like the relationship between me, Bai Yu Sr. and Zenitsu. When there is no danger, we should live in harmony. When we encounter danger, we should face it together. Is that so? Partners are not important. The important thing is that I must knock you out with my head, Tanjiro. And you, Bai Mayo, I will definitely defeat you." Inosuke did not care about partners at all. Instead, he pointed at Bai Yu and shouted that he would defeat Bai Yu. Bai Yu didn't care about what Inosuke said, but said to Agatsuma Zenitsu, let's go. Yes, Bai Yu Sr. Agatsuma Zenitsu didn't want to negotiate too much with Inosuke, so he continued to chase in the direction of the flying crow. Without carrying Inosuke anymore, Agatsuma Zenitsu felt relieved. Tanjiro immediately reminded Inosuke, let's catch up. After that, Tanjiro chased after it. After Inosuke woke up, the crow seemed to know the situation, so it accelerated its flying speed. Inosuke saw that no one paid attention to him, so he quickly chased after Bai Yu, and then accelerated and surpassed Bai Yu, and ran in front. Hahaha, I surpassed you. Inosuke immediately turned around and laughed proudly. Bai Yu did not overtake, nor did he pay attention to Inosuke's ridicule, but silently kept the same speed as the crow. However, as time went by, Inosuke's speed gradually slowed down due to his injuries and physical strength, and was finally overtaken by Bai Yu. Seeing Bai Yu overtaking, Inosuke gritted his teeth, and accelerated to overtake again. At first, Bai Yu didn't say anything, until Inosuke's body was close to the end of its strength. Bai Yu said to Inosuke lightly, if you don't want to die suddenly, slow down and adjust your breathing to the back. At first, Inosuke was not convinced, and still held on. So Bai Yu said again, if you keep going like this, you will die halfway. You will die without even defeating Tanjiro, and then Tanjiro will laugh at you. Chapter 167 The Family Planting Wisteria. Inosuke was also very clear about his physical condition. If he continued to hold on, the result would be, just as Bai Yu said, he would die suddenly. In the end, Inosuke slowed down his speed, because of Bai Yu's words, and readjusted his chaotic breathing. However, Inosuke still said to Bai Yu stubbornly, if I wasn't injured, I would definitely not lose this time. When I'm healed next time, I will definitely run faster than you. After that, Inosuke retreated to the back of the team, and Bai Yu, as the leader, deliberately slowed down for Inosuke's health. After running all the way, everyone arrived at a town at night, and then stopped in front of the gate of one of the families in the town. There was a wisteria flower pattern printed on the gate. After seeing the wisteria flower pattern, Tanjiro couldn't help but murmured, this family actually uses wisteria as a family crest. Rest well here, until your injuries are healed. The crow standing on Tanjiro's shoulder said to everyone, can you rest until your injuries are healed? That's great. Tanjiro thought that rest would only take a day or two, but he didn't expect to rest until his injuries were healed. In this way, he would have to stay in this house with a wisteria flower family crest for at least half a month, which made Tanjiro, who had been busy with tasks, very happy. At this time, the door of this family was pushed open, and an elderly grandmother appeared in everyone's sight, and took the initiative to greet Bai Yu and others. Good evening, everyone. Sorry to bother you so late. Tanjiro replied to the old lady politely. Bai Yu didn't say anything, but just smiled faintly at the old lady. Zenitsu Agatsuma leaned back behind Bai Yu in fear. Obviously, in the gloomy atmosphere of the night, seeing an old grandmother in a remote house made Zenitsu Agatsuma's timid heart begin to have endless reverie. What do? You look so weak. Inosuke took the initiative to walk towards the old lady, and then poked the old lady's bun with his hand. Stop, Inosuke. Don't be so rude to your elders. Tanjiro immediately shouted at Inosuke. The old lady didn't care about Inosuke's rude behavior, but continued to say to everyone, dear ghost hunters, follow me. Immediately, Bai Yu and others entered the yard under the leadership of the old lady. Walking into the yard, Bai Yu saw the wisteria tree planted in the yard. There is not only one wisteria tree planted in the yard, but many. The fragrance of wisteria flowers can be smelled all over the yard, and this fragrance can be smelled even without Tanjiro's sensitive nose. Looking at the wisteria flowers all over the yard, Bai Yu could roughly guess that this family should know about the existence of the demon slayer core and the demon. The old lady asked her group to come here to recuperate, so it was obvious that this family should have a deep connection with the demon slayer core. Soon, the old lady led the group to a bathroom in a large bathhouse, where clothes for 4 people to change were already prepared. You can take a comfortable hot bath here first. Chapter 168 Wisteria Family. After the bath, my granddaughter Yumi will be waiting for you outside the bathhouse. the old lady said, and then left the bathhouse. Inosuke was the first to take off his pants neatly, and then he took off only a loincloth, and then jumped into the bath quickly. Although Inosuke jumped into the bathhouse very quickly, Bai Yu still saw the name written on his loincloth. Habiter Inosuke. This guy didn't grow up wearing a loincloth. I don't know if this loincloth has been washed. If it hasn't been washed, it must smell very sour. After that, everyone took off their clothes and washed their bodies in the bathhouse. Bai Yu didn't mean to take a bath, so after washing his body, he left the bathhouse, changed into clean clothes provided by the old lady, and then hung his sun wheel sword and demon slayer sword around his waist again. Senior Bai Yu, don't you want to soak for a while? It's rare to have the conditions to take a hot bath. Seeing that Bai Yu had already put on the change of clothes, Tanjiro couldn't help but ask Bai Yu. Bai Yu didn't have the habit of taking a bath, so he said to Tanjiro, "You guys take a bath. I'll go out for some fresh air first." At this time, Agatsuma Zenitsu was already leaning against the bathhouse, enjoying himself, with a hot towel covering his head. Hearing this, Tanjiro didn't force Bai Yu, and he also leaned against the bathhouse and took a hot bath. Soon, Bai Yu walked out of the bathhouse, and outside the bathhouse, there was a young woman in a kimono standing. When the young woman saw someone coming out of the bathhouse, she immediately looked at Bai Yu who had come out, and then politely greeted Bai Yu. "Are you done washing?" Bai Yu shook his head, and then said, "I came out to get some fresh air, and those people inside are still enjoying it." Hearing this, the young woman covered her face and laughed secretly, and teased Bai Yu. "You are so humorous." Bai Yu smiled faintly, and then took the initiative to ask the young woman, "You are the granddaughter of that old woman, Yumi?" Hearing this, the young woman nodded, and then replied, "Grandma asked me to wait here for you to finish washing your body, and then take you to the inner room for dinner. Yumi-chan, my name is Bai Yu, and I'm very lucky to meet you." Bai Yu took the initiative to stretch out his hand and chat with Yumi. Seeing this, Yumi hesitated for a while, and finally shook hands with Bai Yu. Because of Bai Yu's handsomeness, Bai Yu simply shook hands with Yumi and let go of Yumi's hand. There was no small movement during the period, but Yumi was reluctant to let go of her hand. This made Yumi somewhat shy and embarrassed, but Bai Yu didn't mind it. He just smiled lightly, then changed the subject and asked Yumi, "Yumi, your family uses wisteria as the family crest. Is there any special relationship with the Demon Slayer Corps?" Hearing this, Yumi nodded, and then told Bai Yu the reason. "This happened after my great-grandfather died. At that time, my great-grandfather's family encountered ghosts when they were young. Because of the help of the Demon Slayer Corps, the family escaped the disaster. Later, in order to repay the favor, they reached a consensus with the Demon Slayer Corps and provided long-term convenience and assistance to the Demon Slayer Corps. This has gradually become the family motto of my family. The wisteria flowers in the yard were planted by my great-grandfather at that time. Because wisteria flowers can drive away ghosts, wisteria flowers have gradually become the family crest of my family." Chapter 169 Catch J. My family only provides assistance to the demon hunters of the Demon Slayer Corps to the best of its ability. There is no special relationship between the family and the Demon Slayer Corps. My grandmother and I don't know anything about the internal affairs of the Demon Slayer Corps. After listening to Yumi, Bai Yu finally understood what was going on with this family that used wisteria flower patterns as family decorations. In fact, it was just like the material assistance given by the common people to the Red Army during the anti-Japanese war. This family and the Demon Slayer Corps were in this kind of relationship. The Demon Slayer Corps has been fighting with ghosts for so many years, and I believe that many such families or clans must have been saved. Therefore, the family that can provide assistance to the demon hunter should not be just Yumi's family. Has Yumi ever encountered a ghost? Bai Yu asked Yumi curiously again. Hearing this, Yumi shook her head and said, "No, I don't want to meet that kind of monster that specializes in eating people." Although Yumi had never encountered a ghost, Bai Yu still heard her disgust for ghosts from her tone. In fact, Bai Yu guessed that the reason why Yumi had never encountered a ghost was that in addition to the wisteria flowers planted in the yard, the wisteria flower sachet that Yumi carried on her body might also be the key. The fragrance on her body was probably caused by years of cultivation. Bai Yu, do all ghosts look like monsters? Yumi asked Bai Yu curiously at this time, because she felt that Bai Yu, as a ghost hunter, should have seen a lot of ghosts. Except for some ghosts that look more deformed. Most ghosts still look similar to humans. After all, ghosts are transformed from humans. Bai Yu replied. Ghosts are transformed from humans? Then why do humans become ghosts? Yumi asked again in surprise and curiosity. This was the first time she heard of the view that ghosts are transformed from humans. Because except for the people of her great-grandfather's time, no one after Yuma's family has ever seen a ghost. Therefore, for things like ghosts, they have always lived in the descriptions of Yuma's great-grandfather. Yuma's understanding of ghosts is that ghosts are man-eating monsters that are afraid of wisteria flowers and sunlight, as well as the sun blades in the hands of ghost hunters. Apart from this, Yumi knows nothing about other aspects. Hearing Yumi's shock, Bai Yu nodded and stopped the topic. Okay, let's talk about this. Knowing too much may not be a good thing for you. Bai Yu immediately changed the subject and did not intend to continue talking to Yumi. After all, knowing too much about these things may not be a good thing for Yumi. Bai Yu did not tell Yumi how people became ghosts because he was afraid that Yumi would really have the idea of making a living as a ghost. Although thinking this way is a bit too exaggerated. However, Yumi really shouldn't know too much. She only needs to know what ghosts are afraid of. Seeing that Bai Yu was unwilling to continue, Yumi did not continue to ask. However, after knowing the major discovery that ghosts were transformed from people, her worldview was indeed shocked. At this time, Tanjiro and the others who had finished bathing had changed their clothes and walked out of the bathhouse. This bath is so comfortable. Agatsuma Zenitsu stretched his waist and said very smoothly. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Bai Yu standing with Yumi. From Yumi's beautiful back, Agatsuma Zenitsu was immediately fascinated, and as a result, Agatsuma Zenitsu shouted angrily, "Catch the adultery! Catch the adultery!" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170. You are the same. Where? Tanjiro also started looking around because of Zenitsu Agatsuma's words. Zenitsu Agatsuma grabbed Bai Yu and Yumi directly and then said righteously, "I caught you too." Yumi was caught by Zenitsu Agatsuma, and she turned around nervously, looking at Zenitsu Agatsuma with a surprised face. "Senior Bai Yu, it turns out that you are not taking a bath because you are thinking about the old lady's granddaughter. You are having a tryst with the old lady's granddaughter behind our backs." Zenitsu Agatsuma came in front of Bai Yu and kept scolding Bai Yu. Bai Yu did not have any emotional fluctuations. On the contrary, Yumi heard the words of Agatsuma Zenitsu's misunderstanding and immediately wanted to explain to Agatsuma Zenitsu anxiously, you. Agatsuma Zenitsu saw that Yumi wanted to explain and immediately interrupted her and then continued his monologue, saying, "You don't have to explain. It must be Bai Yu who hooked up with you first. Don't worry, I will definitely seek justice for you." Tanjiro was speechless when he saw that Agatsuma Zenitsu caught Bai Yu and Yumi cheating. Tanjiro did not see any intimate behavior between Bai Yu and Yumi. How could it be that there was an affair in the eyes of Agatsuma Zenitsu? If so, what about the behavior of Agatsuma Zenitsu who pestered the girl to marry him last time? Inosuke stood quietly aside without any reaction. As soon as Zenitsu Agatsuma finished speaking, Bai Yu stretched out his hand and tapped him hard on the forehead, then said lightly, "Zenitsu, you are too into the role. If I call this a tryst with a girl, your behavior of hugging her thigh last time should be considered as indecent assault." Zenitsu Agatsuma knew that he was in the wrong, so he covered his forehead that was hurt by Bai Yu's tap and said aggrievedly, "I will tell your fiancé, Kiko Yubuayashiki, about this. Say that you are hooking up with girls outside." Hearing this, Bai Yu laughed dumbly. Zenitsu Agatsuma actually acted as Kiko Yubuayashika's spy. Yumi heard what Zenitsu Agatsuma said, and then looked at Bai Yu with some surprise. She didn't expect Bai Yu to have a fiancé. You are the same. If you are too fickle, Tanjiro will not agree to you being with Nezuko. Bai Yu also threatens Zenitsu Agatsuma in turn. Tanjiro, you have to believe me, I will never be as fickle as Senior Shiraha. After hearing what Shiraha said, Zenitsu Agatsuma immediately ran to Tanjiro and emphasized his loyalty. Tanjiro ignored Zenitsu Agatsuma, but came to Shiraha and Yumi, and then said to Yumi, you must be the old woman's granddaughter Yumi. My name is Tanjiro Kamado. This handsome guy with white hair is my senior brother, called Shiraha. The one who shouted to catch the adulterer is Zenitsu Agatsuma, who is usually the most unruly. The other one with a boar head mask is Inosuke Shibira. Tanjiro came to Yumi, and then introduced himself and everyone to her. Yumi and Shiraha had already known each other, so Yumi's attention was more on Tanjiro, Zenitsu Agatsuma and Inosuke. Nice to meet you. Now that you have finished washing up, follow me to the inner room. Dinner for tonight is prepared there for you. Yumi did not continue to dwell on the misunderstanding just now, but bowed respectfully to Tanjiro and others, and prepared to take Bai Yu, Tanjiro and others to the inner room, to complete a reception work. Chapter 171 Too much talk leads to mistakes. After that, everyone did not stay any longer, and under the leadership of Yumi, they walked towards the inner room. Tanjiro was also curious and asked Bai Yu, Bai Yu Senior, what were you talking about with Yumi just now? Yes. Tell the truth. Are you hooking up with that girl behind our backs? Agatsuma Zenitsu also came over curiously at this time, and was very concerned about the things between Bai Yu and Yumi. The moment Agatsuma Zenitsu came over, Bai Yu raised his hand and knocked on Agatsuma Zenitsu's forehead. Agatsuma Zenitsu immediately covered his forehead and shrank back. I just asked about the Wisteria family crest, because the Yumi family was saved by the Demon Slayer Corps before. In order to thank the Demon Slayer Corps, they have provided the best possible assistance to the demon hunters of the Demon Slayer Corps since then. Because wisteria flowers can drive away ghosts, wisteria trees were planted in the yard, and wisteria flowers gradually became the family crest of the Yumi family. Bai Yu immediately replied to Tanjiro indifferently. Through Bai Yu's story, Tanjiro also understood why the crow asked him and others to come to this family to recuperate. And Zenitsu Agatsuma, who didn't hear any explosive information, was very disappointed, so he came to Yumi and asked Yumi without giving up, Yumi-chan, did Senior Bai Yu really not hook up with you? No. Yumi didn't expect Zenitsu Agatsuma to be so difficult, but she still answered Zenitsu Agatsuma politely. At this time, Tanjiro really couldn't stand it anymore, and directly pulled Zenitsu Agatsuma back, and then said, Zenitsu, do you think Senior Bai Yu will be like you? He can't walk when he sees a girl. Even if Senior Bai Yu doesn't take the initiative, with Senior Bai Yu's face, that fascinates thousands of women, he may be teased back. I have to keep an eye on Senior Bai Yu for Huzi, and I can't let Senior Bai Yu be hooked away by a woman. Zenitsu Agatsuma refuted Tanjiro. Bai Yu heard what Zenitsu Agatsuma said, and he agreed with the first half of the sentence, but he disagreed with the second half. How could he be like Zenitsu Agatsuma, who could be easily seduced by a girl? Zenitsu Agatsuma really compared himself to him. Bai Yu just smiled faintly, and did not make any comments. Yumi was not calm, because of Zenitsu Agatsuma's words, although Bai Yu had to admit that she was really popular with girls. But she was not the kind of girl that Zenitsu Agatsuma said, who would throw herself at a handsome guy. Yumi suddenly stopped, then turned around, and kicked Zenitsu Agatsuma fiercely, and cursed, you bastard. Zenitsu Agatsuma was stunned by Yumi's sudden scolding, and then looked at Bai Yu and Tanjiro, and asked in confusion, Senior Bai Yu, Tanjiro, what's wrong with Yumi-chan? Why did you suddenly call me a bastard? Did I do something wrong? After Yumi finished scolding, she quickened her pace, and walked away angrily. Tanjiro was also a little confused. He didn't know why Yumi suddenly called my wife Zenitsu a bastard, so Tanjiro shook his head at Zenitsu. Only Bai Yu, who had a higher emotional intelligence, knew the reason, so Bai Yu showed a meaningful smile to my wife Zenitsu, then patted my wife Zenitsu on the shoulder and reminded him, Zenitsu, remember, Too much talk will lead to mistakes. Chapter 172 Everyone's Injuries. After saying that, Bai Yu continued to follow Yumi's footsteps. As for Bai Yu's words and deeds, Yumi naturally heard them, which made her like Bai Yu even more. It's just that Bai Yu has a fiancé, and Bai Yu is a ghost hunter. These two reasons lead Yumi to know that no matter how perfect Bai Yu is, he is a man who can't accompany her all the time for the rest of her life. Therefore, Yumi still chooses to slowly forget Bai Yu, instead of liking Bai Yu one-sidedly. Tanjiro didn't bother about why Yumi scolded Agatsuma Zenitsu, but chased after Bai Yu. After all, Yumi scolded Agatsuma Zenitsu, not him. Agatsuma Zenitsu, who was left standing there in a daze, asked Bai Yu in confusion, "Bai Yu Senior, what do you mean?" But Inosuke walked in front of Agatsuma Zenitsu, and then asked Agatsuma Zenitsu, "Would you like to warm up before dinner?" Agatsuma Zenitsu saw that he was being stared at by Inosuke, and immediately chased after Bai Yu. Afterwards, under the leadership of Yumi, Bai Yu and the others came to a room in the inner house, where dinner prepared for Bai Yu and the others had been placed on the table. 4 large portions of fried tempura, rice, and miso soup were Bai Yu and the others' dinner tonight. The tempura had just been fried not long ago, and Bai Yu could still see the steam coming out of it. "Please take a seat. Just call me anytime if you need anything. I'll be outside the door." Yumi made a gesture to Bai Yu and the others to come in. Inosuke was the first to rush in, then picked a seat and sat down carelessly. "Thank you, Yumi-chan." Tanjiro politely replied to Yumi, and then followed Bai Yu and my wife Zenitsu into the house. Yumi nodded, and when she saw Bai Yu and the others had entered the house, she took the initiative to close the door, and then waited outside the house at any time. Inosuke was obviously very hungry, and before Bai Yu and the others, he had already eaten his portion. Tanjiro first put the mist spruce wooden box on his back in the corner of the room, then sat opposite Bai Yu, and said to Bai Yu politely, "Senior Bai Yu, please go first. This is out, the master is not here." Then Bai Yu, as a senior brother, is acting as an elder, so Tanjiro naturally has to wait for Bai Yu to pick up his chopsticks, before he can pick up his chopsticks. Although Zenitsu Agatsuma is not from the same school as Bai Yu and Tanjiro, out of respect for Bai Yu and family education, in this formal dinner, he also waited for Bai Yu to pick up his chopsticks first. Bai Yu nodded to Tanjiro, then picked up the chopsticks and started eating. Inosuke completely ignored Bai Yu and others, eating his own food. Except for Zenitsu Agatsuma, who felt that Inosuke was a little unbearable. Bai Yu and Tanjiro did not pay attention to Inosuke's eating style. After everyone finished dinner, Yumi, who was waiting outside, came into the room to collect the bowls, chopsticks, and plates that everyone had eaten and cleaned them. While Yumi was washing the dishes, Yumi's grandmother came to the room with a doctor, and then the doctor began to examine Shiraha and others. In addition to Shiraha, Tanjiro, Agatsuma Zenitsu and Inosuke were all injured. The most serious one was Inosuke, who had both external and internal injuries. Under the doctor's examination, Inosuke had 4 broken ribs, 2 of which were broken by Tanjiro's punch. Tanjiro had 3 broken ribs. The most surprising was Agatsuma Zenitsu, who also had 2 broken ribs. Chapter 173, Agatsuma Zenitsu's Envy. After that, the doctor treated the external injuries of Agatsuma Zenitsu and Inosuke. The doctor simply sewed the wound on Inosuke's stomach, in order to make the wound heal better, and reduce the area of the scar. Agatsuma Zenitsu's external injuries were all bruises left by Inosuke's beating. They were not very serious. He only needed to apply some blood circulation and blood stasis oil. As for the treatment of broken ribs, the doctor used a bamboo board made of bamboo to simply fix Tanjiro, Agatsuma Zenitsu and Inosuke. The function of this bamboo board fixation is mainly to limit Tanjiro and others from making large movements, because the healing of broken bones takes a long time. If there are always large movements during the healing period, the healing time will be prolonged at best, and the original position of the bones will be offset at worst, and the broken bones will be extremely easy to grow crooked. Most of Tanjiro's upper body muscles still have slight strains, so the doctor also prescribed him a bottle of medicinal wine to promote muscle recovery to wipe his body. After the doctor handed the secret medicinal wine to the old woman, he got up and left the old woman's house. Among the 4 people, only Bai Yu was not injured, which surprised Yumi. After that, the old woman handed the medicinal wine to her granddaughter Yumi, and told Yumi, "Yumi-chan, the job of wiping Tanjiro's body with the medicinal wine is left to you." Yumi took the medicinal wine, nodded, and said, "I know." After explaining the matter, the old woman left the room. Yumi looked at Tanjiro, and then said to Tanjiro, "Tanjiro, just expose your upper body like Inosuke and lie down." Hearing this, Tanjiro looked at Inosuke, and found that Inosuke did not wear the pajamas completely. The upper part of the pajamas fell on his waist. Because it was bound by the belt, the robe did not fall down. So Tanjiro pulled his hands out of the sleeves, and then the pajamas fell down without the support of Tanjiro's skeleton. Exposing his upper body in front of a strange girl made Tanjiro somewhat shy and nervous. However, Tanjiro still followed Yumi's instructions and lay on the tatami. Immediately, Yumi knelt in front of Tanjiro and began to wipe Tanjiro's body with the medicinal wine in her hand. Seeing that Tanjiro was actually enjoying the intimate service of a beautiful woman, Zenitsu Agatsuma was envious, so he came to Yumi's side and said with his own oil, "Yumi-chan, I have injuries on my body too. Can you use this bottle of oil to wipe my back?" Bai Yu saw Zenitsu Agatsuma's appearance and immediately covered his face and laughed. Bai Yu knew what Zenitsu Agatsuma was thinking without even thinking about it. Zenitsu Agatsuma must want his body to have an intimate contact with Yumi's hands. Yumi gave Zenitsu Agatsuma a cold look and then refused coldly, "No, I don't want to help you." Yumi's words were like a bolt from the blue, hitting Zenitsu Agatsuma's head directly. Zenitsu Agatsuma's face suddenly turned pale, and the whole world seemed to have lost its color. "Yumi-chan, you can't treat me differently. I'm also a wounded person." Zenitsu Agatsuma still didn't give up, and continued to find reasons to let Yumi provide him with personal service. Chapter 174 Bai Yu's Experiment. Yumi stuck out her tongue at Zenitsu Agatsuma, and then made a face, as if she wanted to piss off Zenitsu Agatsuma to death. Yumi knew what Zenitsu Agatsuma was planning. He just wanted to take advantage of this opportunity. If Zenitsu Agatsuma hadn't said the wrong thing before, Yumi wouldn't have targeted Zenitsu Agatsuma like this. Bai Yu walked up to Zenitsu Agatsuma at this time, and then patted Zenitsu Agatsuma's shoulder heavily, and teased, "Zenitsu, you are teasing Yumi-chan like this, right? It seems that Nezuko hasn't changed you. You are still as fickle as ever." "Senior Bai Yu, please don't discredit me. I just want Yumi-chan to help me apply some medicine. After all, I'm a wounded person. 2 ribs are broken. The doctor said that I can't do any movements that are too wide, so I can only let Yumi-chan help me apply the medicine." Zenitsu Agatsuma began to give reasons to clear himself. Hearing this, Bai Yu knew that what my wife Zenitsu said was true, but my wife Zenitsu's idea was definitely not so simple. "Didn't you see that Yumi-chan didn't want to? This time, since I'm in a good mood, I'll help you apply the medicine myself." Bai Yu immediately planned to help my wife Zenitsu apply the medicine himself. The reason why Bai Yu was so kind was that he wanted to use my wife Zenitsu as a test subject. Bai Yu wanted to try whether his method could work on a third party. Otherwise, why would Bai Yu have nothing to do and help my wife Zenitsu apply the medicine? Seeing that Bai Yu wanted to help him personally, Zenitsu Agatsuma was not happy, because this would be equivalent to ruining his good deeds. So Zenitsu Agatsuma smiled awkwardly, and then found a reason to refuse. "Senior Bai Yu, how can I trouble you to do this kind of thing? Let Yumi-chan do it. This kind of thing is not what a master like you should do." Yumi heard Zenitsu Agatsuma's words, and suddenly said to Zenitsu Agatsuma, "You are a pervert. Stop talking nonsense. I don't know what you are planning. If you cooperate a little, I might even let Nezuko give you a massage." Bai Yu was too lazy to argue with Zenitsu Agatsuma, and directly pulled Zenitsu Agatsuma aside, then took off the clothes on Zenitsu Agatsuma's upper body, and finally tripped him with his foot, and tripped Zenitsu Agatsuma onto the tatami. However, when Zenitsu Agatsuma was about to fall on the tatami, Bai Yu immediately grabbed Zenitsu Agatsuma's belt again, which prevented Zenitsu Agatsuma from falling directly on the tatami. Immediately, Bai Yu slowly loosened the belt of Agatsuma Zenitsu. Then, Bai Yu took the bottle of active oil from Agatsuma Zenitsu. Agatsuma Zenitsu stopped resisting when he heard Bai Yu's next words, and then he couldn't hold back his excitement and asked, "Senior Bai Yu, are you serious? Will Nezuko really give me a personal massage? I can try to convey it to Nezuko for you," Bai Yu replied. After that, Bai Yu unscrewed the cap of the active oil and then poured the active oil on the bruised part of Agatsuma Zenitsu's back. Then, Bai Yu began to perform wood breathing. Bai Yu concentrated the wood essence generated by wood breathing in the palms of his hands. Then, Bai Yu put his hands on the skin on Agatsuma Zenitsu's back. As soon as Bai Yu put his palm on it, Agatsuma Zenitsu's whole expression suddenly became light-hearted, and the whole person couldn't help but let out a feeling of enjoyment. So it's so comfortable. Chapter 175. The magical effects of wood breathing. The wood essence condensed in Bai Yu's palm directly invaded the injury on my wife Zenitsu's back. Those essences repaired my wife Zenitsu's injured cells little by little, and the wood essence also opened the pores of my wife Zenitsu's skin, accelerating the time for my wife Zenitsu to absorb the effect of the active oil. Itchy and numb, so comfortable. My wife Zenitsu didn't expect Bai Yu's technique to be so comfortable, and immediately made a soft sound of incomparable enjoyment. Bai Yu didn't expect my wife Zenitsu to be so comfortable that he screamed, and then he slapped my wife Zenitsu's back heavily. The sudden pain made my wife Zenitsu scream out and complain to Bai Yu, a little unhappy. "Senior Bai Yu, why did you hit me suddenly? Be quiet, don't make it sound like you're screaming," Bai Yu said suddenly. Immediately, my wife Zenitsu also restrained himself, no longer making any sound, and quietly enjoyed Bai Yu's breathing therapy. Yumi couldn't help laughing because of Bai Yu's joke. Bai Yu's humor really caught people off guard. Tanjiro also looked at Bai Yu and Agatsuma Zenitsu curiously. Why did Agatsuma Zenitsu sigh so comfortably? Is there something special about Bai Yu's technique? Although he was curious, Tanjiro didn't bother Bai Yu. Bai Yu used the breathing of wood to treat Agatsuma Zenitsu for about a few minutes and then stopped. At this time, all the active oil on Agatsuma Zenitsu's back was absorbed into the body, so Agatsuma Zenitsu's skin became dry. The bruises on Agatsuma Zenitsu's back were also much darker than before, and some of the less serious areas had even completely recovered. As soon as the comfortable feeling disappeared, Agatsuma Zenitsu was still a little unsatisfied, and then asked Bai Yu, "Bai Yu Senior, is this the end?" Bai Yu immediately patted Agatsuma Zenitsu's back again, and then said lightly, "How long do you want to enjoy it? Weren't you very reluctant just now?" Hearing this, Agatsuma Zenitsu smiled awkwardly, then slowly got up, and tried to move a little, and found that the swelling and pain in the back disappeared a lot. Agatsuma Zenitsu was very surprised and asked Bai Yu, "Bai Yu Senior, what method did you use? It actually relieved my injury so much." Ancestral method. Bai Yu did not really explain to Agatsuma Zenitsu the magic of wood breathing. Tanjiro also saw that the bruises on Agatsuma Zenitsu's back had obviously dissipated. Although he could not directly feel the change of Agatsuma Zenitsu's injury, he could know from the obvious dissipation of the bruises on Agatsuma Zenitsu's back that Agatsuma Zenitsu's injury had definitely improved and recovered significantly. At this time, a snoring sound was heard, and everyone looked in the direction of the sound, and found Inosuke lying on the ground and sleeping soundly. After running all the way, coupled with his injuries, Inosuke was much more tired than ever. After Bai Yu helped Agatsuma Zenitsu recover from his injuries, he had no intention of helping Tanjiro recover from his injuries. After all, he was still enjoying Yumi's personal service. Bai Yu would naturally not ruin it. However, Yumi's service was over soon. Immediately, Yumi put the lid of the medicinal wine back, then stood up, and said to Bai Yu and others, "I will prepare bedding, pillows and sleeping mats for you." After that, Yumi left the room. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.